What if everything you believe about yourself is a story? Imagine waking up one day to realize that your name, memories, and identity are merely constructs, not the essence of who you truly are. This might sound far-fetched, even unsettling, but stay with me, because this revelation holds the key to a boundless freedom that transcends the limits of the mind. From the moment we're born, we're taught to view ourselves as separate beings, navigating a world filled with boundaries. This idea shapes how we think, feel, and act. But what if this very notion of separateness is the root of all suffering? What if the truth is that you were never truly born and can never truly die? This isn't a denial of life, but an invitation to explore its deeper, timeless reality. In this journey, we'll explore the illusion of the self, uncover the nature of awareness, and learn how to live without the burden of ego. Along the way, we'll weave in stories, reflections, and practices to make these profound ideas relatable and transformative. By the end, you'll see yourself not as a wave isolated in the ocean, but as the infinite ocean itself, timeless, boundless, and free. Chapter 1. Understanding the illusion of the self. Number 1. The birth of the ego. From childhood, we are conditioned to believe in a distinct, enduring identity. I am this, I am that. This sense of self is shaped by the names we're given, the roles we adopt, and the experiences we accumulate. Over time, these elements coalesce into what we call the ego, the psychological construct that gives us a sense of individuality and separateness. However, when examined closely, this ego proves to be an illusion. Take the body, for instance. It seems central to our identity, yet it is in constant flux. Every cell in your skin, muscles, and organs is replaced over time. So much so that the body you inhabit today is physically different from the one you had a decade ago. If the body is not static, can it truly define who you are? Then there are your thoughts and emotions, intangible, fleeting, and ever-changing. One moment, you feel joy. The next, anxiety. These mental states arise spontaneously, often without your conscious control, and they fade just as unpredictably. If thoughts and emotions are transient, how can they encapsulate the essence of who you are? Number 2. The illusion of continuity. The ego's power lies in its ability to weave these shifting elements, body, thoughts, emotions, into a narrative of continuity. It tells a story. This is my past, my present, and my future. This story creates a sense of coherence, but it is a fabrication, built on selective memory and habitual thought patterns. Much like a movie appears seamless despite being a series of individual frames, the ego tricks us into believing in a stable, unchanging self. This narrative, while functional for navigating the world, is not the full truth of who you are. Beneath the surface lies something more profound, unbound by the constructs of time and identity. Number 3. The wave and the ocean. To grasp this deeper truth, consider the ocean and its waves. Each wave seems distinct, with its own rise and fall, its own form and trajectory. Yet every wave is inseparable from the ocean. It is not a separate entity, but a momentary expression of the ocean's vast, dynamic being. Similarly, what you perceive as your individual self is a transient manifestation of the boundless awareness that underlies all existence. This awareness, unlike the body or mind, is unchanging. It is not subject to the passage of time, the decay of the physical form, or the ebb and flow of emotions. It is the silent witness to all experiences, the stillness amidst movement. Recognizing this truth can dissolve the illusion of separateness. The wave, upon realizing it is the ocean, no longer clings to its individual form. In the same way, when you see through the illusion of the ego, you begin to identify less with the transient and more with the eternal. Number 4. The freedom of awareness. This shift in understanding transforms the way you experience life. The dissolution of the ego does not mean the loss of individuality, but the realization that individuality is just one aspect of a greater whole. You continue to live as a unique expression of the infinite, but without the burdens of fear, attachment, or the need for validation that the ego often demands. Freed from these constraints, you can engage with the world more authentically and compassionately. The recognition of your interconnectedness with all beings fosters a profound sense of unity and love. No longer trapped in the illusion of I and them, you see life for what it truly is, an interconnected dance of existence, ever-changing yet rooted in an unchanging essence. Chapter 2. The True Nature of Awareness. Awareness is the silent presence that observes everything in your experience without judgment or attachment. It is not bound by thoughts, emotions, or sensations but exists independently of them, serving as the constant witness to the ever-changing flow of your inner and outer worlds. Imagine awareness as the vast sky, limitless, unshakable, and ever-present. Your thoughts, emotions, and sensations are like clouds passing through this sky. Some clouds are light and fleeting, while others are heavy and stormy. Regardless of their form, they cannot alter the nature of the sky itself. This perspective reveals a profound truth. You are not the clouds of your mind, but the infinite expanse of awareness in which they appear. The clouds come and go, yet awareness remains, unmarked, unchanging, and free. Discovering your true nature as awareness doesn't require elaborate rituals or complex philosophies. It begins with a simple question: who am I? Close your eyes and turn your attention inward. The mind may immediately respond with familiar roles and identities. I'm a parent. I'm a friend. I'm a professional. These answers describe your external life, but they do not capture the essence of who you are. Instead, notice the one who is observing these thoughts, who is aware of these roles, who perceives the emotions and memories tied to them. Keep asking, peeling away each layer of identity, until you arrive at the quiet, spacious stillness that remains. This stillness is your true self. It is pure awareness, beyond labels, roles, and even the body. In this state, there is no striving, no becoming, just the peace of being. The idea that awareness is distinct from the mind finds support in both philosophical traditions and modern neuroscience. Ancient wisdom traditions, such as Advaita Vedanta and Zen Buddhism, teach that the self we identify with is an illusion created by the mind. What remains after this illusion is dissolved is pure awareness, the unchanging essence of existence. Interestingly, neuroscience echoes these insights. Studies show that our sense of self arises from dynamic neural patterns in the brain, particularly in regions like the default mode network. These patterns are shaped by experiences, relationships, and even cultural influences, demonstrating that the self is not fixed but fluid. What you consider you today is different from you a decade ago, as neural pathways adapt and evolve over time. Yet, awareness does not change. It is not a construct of the brain, but the stage upon which all neural activity plays out. Unlike thoughts or emotions, which can be measured and mapped, awareness itself remains elusive to scientific tools. This is because awareness is not an object, it is the subject, the very act of knowing that makes experience possible. It is the witness to the brain's activity, but it is not confined to it. Recognizing awareness as your true nature transforms how you engage with life. Instead of identifying with the fleeting clouds of thought and emotion, you rest in the stability of the sky. This shift brings a sense of freedom and clarity. Challenges no longer feel overwhelming because you see them for what they are, passing phenomena, not permanent truths. Living from awareness also nurtures a deeper connection with others. When you realize that the awareness within you is the same awareness within everyone, the boundaries of self and other dissolve. Compassion, empathy, and understanding arise naturally, as you see yourself reflected in all beings. Ultimately, awareness is the key to peace, not because it changes the world around you, but because it changes how you perceive it. When you live as the sky, the passing storms lose their power to disturb, and the beauty of existence shines through in every moment. Chapter 3. Living without the ego. The ego thrives on the illusion of separateness, creating a fortress of identity that it fiercely defends. It perceives rejection as a blow to its worth, failure as a threat to its value, and death as the ultimate annihilation. These fears dominate much of our emotional landscape, keeping us trapped in cycles of anxiety and resistance. But what happens when you see through the illusion of the ego? The realization dawns that the ego, with all its stories and defenses, is not who you truly are. You are the awareness observing these stories, a presence that was never truly born and thus can never truly die. With this insight, fear loses its foundation. Rejection becomes an experience, not a verdict on your existence. Failure transforms into a lesson, not an attack on your identity. Even death, once seen as an ending, becomes a transition within the infinite dance of life. Without the ego's constant need to control, life becomes a harmonious flow. Decisions arise not from fear or desire, but from a natural alignment with the present moment. Imagine a river carrying leaves downstream. The leaves do not struggle or resist. They simply move with the current. In the same way, living without the ego allows you to flow with life's rhythms, trusting the innate wisdom of awareness to guide you. This does not mean passivity or inaction. On the contrary, it frees you to act with clarity and purpose. Without the ego's attachments to outcomes, you engage fully with each moment, unburdened by worry or regret. Success and failure lose their emotional weight, and you find joy in the process itself, rather than in external validation. Living without the ego is not an abstract ideal. It is a practice that unfolds through daily life. Here are some practical steps to cultivate this freedom. 1. Mindful observation. The first step to transcending the ego is recognizing it. Pay attention to moments when the ego arises. For example, if someone criticizes you, notice the immediate impulse to defend yourself or retaliate. Instead of acting on this impulse, pause and ask, who is feeling criticized? This simple question reveals the ego as a mental construct, not your true self. As you practice observing the ego, its hold on you diminishes, and you respond to life with greater awareness and equanimity. 2. Gratitude practice. The ego thrives on lack. It always wants more recognition, more possessions, more status. Gratitude shifts your focus from what is missing to what is present. Begin each day by reflecting on 3 things you are grateful for, no matter how small. This practice nurtures a sense of abundance and dissolves the ego's constant neediness. Gratitude also fosters connection, reminding you of the interconnectedness of all life and helping you move beyond the illusion of separateness. 3. Letting go of outcomes. The ego is deeply invested in outcomes. It wants to succeed, win, and achieve. Practice releasing your attachment to results. When you take action, focus on the effort and intention rather than the end goal. For instance, if you're working on a project, immerse yourself in the process without fixating on whether it will be praised or criticized. This detachment allows you to act from a place of authenticity and creativity, unclouded by the ego's expectations. 4. Embracing silence and stillness. Regularly take time to sit in silence and observe your thoughts. In this stillness, you begin to notice the ego's chatter for what it is: noise passing through awareness. Meditation, mindful breathing, or simply being present in nature can deepen this practice. Over time, the gap between awareness and the ego becomes clearer, and you increasingly identify with the spaciousness of your true self. As the grip of the ego loosens, life becomes lighter and more expansive. Relationships improve as you let go of the need to be right or superior. Creativity flourishes when it is no longer constrained by fear of failure. Even mundane tasks take on a new dimension of joy and presence. Living without the ego does not mean erasing your individuality or suppressing your personality. It means realizing that your true self is far greater than any role, thought, or emotion. It is the awareness in which all experiences arise and dissolve. From this place of freedom, you engage with life not as a separate self but as an integral part of the whole, flowing effortlessly with the ever-changing currents of existence. Chapter 4. Real-life stories and examples. The story of Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most revered Roman emperors, stands as a timeless example of living beyond the ego. Despite commanding immense power and authority, he continually practiced humility and self-awareness. In his personal journal, Meditations, Marcus often reminded himself of his place in the universe, a single thread in the vast fabric of existence. He viewed his role as emperor not as a personal achievement to glorify, but as a responsibility to serve the greater good. For instance, Marcus frequently reflected on mortality and the transient nature of life, writing, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This awareness of impermanence helped him rise above the ego's preoccupation with status and legacy. By focusing on the present moment and the well-being of others, Marcus transcended the illusion of separateness, finding meaning not in dominance but in service. Even in the face of adversity, plagues, wars, and political betrayals, Marcus maintained composure and clarity. He saw these challenges not as personal affronts but as opportunities to practice virtues like patience, resilience, and compassion. His life demonstrates that living without ego does not mean abandoning ambition or responsibility. It means aligning your actions with the greater whole, free from the need for personal validation. A modern example. In the modern world, ego often manifests as self-doubt, comparison, and the relentless pursuit of external validation. Consider the story of Sarah, a young professional who spent years tying her sense of self-worth to her career success. She believed that promotions, accolades, and achievements were the ultimate markers of her value. However, this mindset led to chronic stress and dissatisfaction. Every setback felt like a personal failure, and even her successes brought only fleeting satisfaction. Seeking relief, Sarah turned to mindfulness practices. Through meditation and self-inquiry, she began to notice the constant chatter of her ego, the voice that said she wasn't good enough unless she achieved more. One day, during a mindfulness retreat, Sarah experienced a profound shift. While meditating, she realized that her worth was not tied to her job, her accolades, or even her abilities. It lay in her intrinsic being, the awareness that had always been present, quietly observing her thoughts and experiences. This realization was liberating. Sarah returned to her daily life with a new perspective. Instead of chasing perfection, she focused on showing up fully in each moment. She tackled challenges with confidence and grace, no longer paralyzed by the fear of failure. Her relationships also improved, as she let go of the need to prove herself and began connecting with others authentically. Sarah's journey illustrates how recognizing the ego's illusions can lead to freedom and fulfillment. Other everyday stories. 1. The artist who let go of perfection. John, an aspiring painter, spent years avoiding public exhibitions because he feared criticism. His ego told him that if his work wasn't flawless, it wasn't worth sharing. After joining a mindfulness group, John began questioning these beliefs. He realized that his art wasn't about perfection but expression. By shifting his focus from external approval to the joy of creating, John found the courage to exhibit his work. To his surprise, people resonated deeply with the honesty in his art, imperfections and all. 2. The parent who found patience. Maria, a mother of 2, often felt overwhelmed by her children's demands. Her ego interpreted their misbehavior as a reflection of her inadequacy as a parent. Through mindfulness practices, Maria learned to pause and observe her reactions. She realized that her frustration stemmed not from her children's actions, but from her own expectations. By letting go of the need to be the perfect parent, Maria became more present and patient, creating a more harmonious home environment. 3. The entrepreneur who embraced failure. David, a startup founder, once equated business success with personal worth. After a failed venture, he spiraled into self-doubt. However, a mentor introduced him to the concept of ego awareness. David began viewing failure not as a personal defeat, but as feedback and growth. This shift allowed him to approach his next venture with resilience and creativity, ultimately leading to success. These stories highlight that living without ego is not reserved for philosophers or spiritual masters. It is a practice accessible to anyone, regardless of their circumstances. By seeing through the ego's illusions, individuals can find clarity, connection, and a deeper sense of purpose in their everyday lives. Chapter 5. Addressing common misconceptions. Misconception: if there's no self, life has no meaning. Many people fear that letting go of the ego means losing a sense of purpose or direction. After all, much of modern life revolves around the stories the ego creates: achievements, relationships, and personal identity. Without these, some wonder, what's the point of living? The truth is that meaning does not arise from the ego, but from the deeper awareness that underlies all experience. Ego-based meaning is often conditional and fleeting, dependent on external validation, possessions, or accomplishments. When these conditions change, the sense of meaning can vanish, leaving a void. Awareness, on the other hand, is inherently meaningful. It does not seek purpose, it simply is. Like the sun that shines without needing a reason, awareness radiates clarity, presence, and peace. When you connect with this deeper awareness, meaning arises naturally, not as a concept to be grasped, but as a felt experience of being fully alive. For example, when you're engrossed in the beauty of a sunset, you don't pause to question its meaning. The moment itself is enough. Similarly, living from awareness allows you to find purpose not in abstract ideals, but in the simple, profound reality of each moment: the laughter of a child, the rhythm of your breath, the interconnectedness of all things. Misconception: letting go of the ego makes life cold and detached. Another common misunderstanding is that releasing the ego results in emotional numbness or detachment from others. This stems from the idea that the ego is the source of passion, love, and connection. Without it, life may seem like an empty void. In reality, the opposite is true. Letting go of the ego doesn't diminish your emotions or connections, it deepens them. The ego often acts as a barrier, creating a sense of separateness that limits your ability to truly connect. It filters relationships through layers of fear, judgment, and self-interest, making interactions transactional rather than authentic. When the ego dissolves, these barriers fall away. You no longer approach relationships with the need to defend, control, or gain something. Instead, you engage from a place of openness and presence. This allows for genuine compassion, empathy, and joy to flourish. Consider a simple act of kindness, like helping a stranger. When driven by the ego, this act may be accompanied by thoughts like, will they appreciate me? Or does this make me a good person? Without the ego, the same act is done purely for its own sake. It becomes an expression of love, free from expectation or self-interest. Far from making life cold, this shift brings warmth and richness. You see the world not as a collection of separate entities, but as a unified whole. This awareness fosters a deep, abiding connection to all beings and the natural flow of life itself. 1. Meaning beyond ego. Imagine a musician completely immersed in playing a piece of music. In that moment, they are not thinking about how well they are performing or whether the audience approves. They are simply one with the music. This state of flow, where ego dissolves and awareness takes over, is inherently meaningful. It is not about achieving something, but about being fully present. Similarly, when you let go of the ego, you discover that meaning is not something you have to search for or construct. It is already present in the act of living. Whether you are cooking a meal, walking in nature, or having a heartfelt conversation, meaning flows naturally when you are connected to awareness. 2. Connection beyond ego. Relationships become transformative when the ego is set aside. Without the need to protect your image or assert your importance, you can truly listen to others. This deep listening allows you to understand and empathize with their experiences, fostering authentic connection. Letting go of the ego also enables you to appreciate the small, unnoticed moments of life. A smile from a stranger, the rustle of leaves in the wind, or the stillness of a quiet evening become sources of profound joy. You realize that connection isn't something you create. It is the natural state of being when the ego's filters are removed. Addressing these misconceptions reveals a simple but profound truth. Letting go of the ego doesn't take anything away from life. It enriches it. Without the ego's endless demands and defenses, you uncover a life filled with meaning, connection, and presence. The journey is not one of loss but of rediscovery, rediscovering the beauty and wholeness that have been with you all along. Chapter 6. The Path to Liberation. Seeing through the ego is like opening a door to a vast, uncharted landscape of freedom and clarity. However, stepping through that door is only the beginning. True liberation lies in integrating this awareness into every aspect of daily life. It is not enough to glimpse the truth of your nature during moments of meditation or introspection. The real work begins when you bring this understanding into your relationships, work, and ordinary routines. Integration means meeting each moment with curiosity, openness, and presence. For instance, when someone criticizes you, instead of reacting defensively, you pause and observe your thoughts and feelings. You might notice the ego's voice saying, "They don't understand me," or "I need to prove them wrong." But instead of acting from this narrative, you respond from the stillness of awareness, perhaps with empathy or detachment. This practice transforms everyday interactions into opportunities for growth and connection. Simple practices can help deepen this integration. Regular mindfulness exercises, such as focusing on your breath during routine activities, anchor you in the present. Journaling about your experiences with egoic reactions can also reveal patterns, helping you navigate life with greater awareness. Over time, these small acts build a life rooted in presence rather than ego-driven narratives. Letting go of the ego does not mean escaping life's difficulties. Challenges will arise, as they always do, but your relationship with them changes profoundly. Instead of viewing obstacles as threats to your identity, you see them as opportunities to deepen your understanding of awareness and dissolve the ego further. Take anger as an example. Anger often arises when the ego feels wronged, disrespected, or threatened. The next time you feel anger bubbling up, pause and ask yourself, who is angry? This question is not meant to suppress the emotion, but to shift your perspective. You may notice that the anger is tied to a story. They shouldn't treat me this way, or I deserve better. By observing the story without identifying with it, you create space between the emotion and your true self. In this space, you may find that the anger begins to dissipate on its own, replaced by a sense of clarity or even compassion. You can then respond to the situation, not from a place of reactivity, but from a place of wisdom and presence. Practical ways to embrace challenges. 1. Pause and observe. When a challenging emotion arises, be it anger, fear, or sadness, pause for a moment. Close your eyes if possible, and take a deep breath. Notice where the emotion is felt in your body. Is it a tightness in your chest? A heaviness in your stomach? Instead of resisting or analyzing it, simply observe. This act of observation reconnects you with awareness, breaking the ego's grip on the situation. 2. Ask insightful questions. Questions like, who is feeling this? Or what is this emotion trying to teach me? Can redirect your focus from the ego's reaction to the deeper awareness behind it. Often, these questions reveal that the emotion is a passing wave, not a permanent part of your being. 3. Reframe challenges as growth. Instead of resisting difficulties, view them as invitations to practice presence. For example, if you face rejection, instead of thinking, "This means I'm not good enough," consider, "This is a chance to explore my resilience and detachment." This mindset shift transforms challenges into powerful tools for liberation. 4. Practice gratitude. Gratitude is a potent antidote to the ego's tendency to focus on what's lacking. Even in difficult moments, find something to appreciate, whether it's the support of a friend, the lesson hidden in the challenge, or the simple fact that you are alive. Gratitude dissolves the ego's narratives of scarcity and fosters a deeper connection to awareness. As you integrate awareness into daily life and embrace challenges as opportunities, a profound shift occurs. You begin to experience life not as a series of problems to solve, but as an unfolding process to engage with. Even the mundane becomes infused with presence and meaning. Washing dishes, walking to work, or listening to a friend all become opportunities to express and deepen your awareness. This does not mean life becomes devoid of emotions or struggles. On the contrary, emotions may still arise, and struggles may still persist, but they no longer define you. They are waves on the surface of the ocean, while you remain rooted in the vast, still depths of your true self. Liberation is not an escape from life. It is a way of fully embracing it, free from the limitations of the ego. With each moment of integration and each challenge met with awareness, you step further into the freedom and joy of your authentic nature. You've journeyed through the layers of the self, peeling back the constructs of identity to reveal the boundless freedom of awareness. This realization is not about abandoning your life or striving to become an idealized version of yourself. It is about recognizing what has always been true, that life is not something happening to you, but something flowing through and as you, in the infinite ocean of awareness. This understanding transforms the way you engage with the world. It invites you to live with lightness, free from the weight of the ego's demands and the illusion of separateness. It allows you to see challenges not as threats, but as opportunities for growth and deeper connection. It reveals that the essence of who you are is not defined by your roles, achievements, or failures, but by the vast, unchanging awareness that underlies all experience. This realization is not something you achieve once and for all. It is a practice, a way of being that deepens over time. Each moment offers an opportunity to remember your true nature. When challenges arise, remind yourself, I am not the wave, I am the ocean. When joy arises, celebrate it as a ripple in the vast sea of awareness. Integration doesn't require radical changes to your external life. It begins with small shifts in perspective, pausing to observe your thoughts, practicing gratitude, and embracing each moment as it is. Over time, these shifts create a life that flows naturally, free from the ego's constraints. Life continuously invites you to return to the truth of who you are. Every experience, whether joyous or painful, is a reminder of the infinite awareness you embody. This journey is not about becoming something new, but about remembering what has always been. You are not confined by the stories you tell yourself or the roles you play. You are the boundless, eternal presence in which all of life unfolds. This realization is the ultimate liberation, offering you the freedom to live fully, love deeply, and embrace the ever-changing waves of existence with peace and wonder.